I need to rip up the script, Mr. Regling, and speak of the trip of Angela Merkel to Washington on April 27th. I don't know if you're aware of that, but the president has just announced that she will travel to Washington. What will be her goal in coming to Washington to see the president of the United States?
Well, I think we are concerned, and that is one of the themes at the IMF meetings this week, that trade might be negatively affected by some of the actions of the US government. Trade is a crucial stimulus for world growth. And we have seen the last 2 years that, unlike during the crisis when world trade was hardly expanding at all, now world trade again is growing faster than world GDP, and that helps everybody to increase growth. But this is at risk if protectionism becomes widespread, and some measures that have been taken indicate that, then we will all suffer. We will have lower growth, all of us.
Would you please explain for our world audience on television, on radio this morning, the delicacies of a German running the European Central Bank? I've had the honor of sitting at your old ECB building in Frankfurt with Ottmar Issing, who's a first-rate mind on economics. Why this debate over who will replace Draghi, and heaven forbid it would be a German?
Well, I don't know whether that's really the correct characterization.
It's TV. Go with me here, please.
Don't forget, it took also several months of very intense debate in the US before it was clear who would become the next Fed president. So this happens. Markets are very, very interested who runs the big central banks in the US, UK, in the Euro area, and Japan. There's always a debate on that. We are very happy to have Mario Draghi in place for another year and a half.
Mr. Klaus Regling, let me bring it back and actually remind all of our viewers and radio listeners what the ESM is. Now, this was at the height of the Eurozone financial crisis back in 2010 when the region's lenders created a financial backstop known as the European Financial Stability Facility. Now it's known as the ESM. Will it be a concrete backstop? Does the German, what kind of role do the Germans want the ESM to have?
Well, maybe one word of what we have done the last 7 years. Indeed, the height of the crisis, we were created a new institution. It did not exist before our Euro crisis. What we have done the last 7, 8 years is we have provided loans to 5 countries that lost market access or were close to losing market access. And we have disbursed during these 7 years 280 billion euro. So that's more than 300 billion US dollars. And that made sure that the euro area stayed together, because the risk was that some countries could have been forced to leave the euro area. So that did not happen. That's good. We have kept stability. And in the process, the 5 countries that received money from my institutions have implemented dramatic reforms. And that's why they are among the best performing economies now inside Europe. So we know and we learned how to handle the crisis. It's good. Now there's a debate that the ESM might do more things, but I think we can look back quite satisfied.
Right, and actually, what will the ESM do? Do you think it will become an almost, a European Monetary Fund, and would that have the backing of the Germans?
Well, there's a debate in our 19 member states, and these things are never easy in Europe because 19 independent countries have to agree, and they have to find a consensus. This has to be decided by consensus. Yeah. So that makes it so difficult. It's easier to do dramatic steps in a crisis. Of course, we are happy to be outside the crisis. We are well out of the crisis, but it means the urgency seems to be less, and it takes a bit more time. There is a debate. But in general, our member states believe that the ESM should play a stronger role in the future, together with the European Commission, which also has an active role in case there's a new crisis.